The pastor's name is Elias Whitcomb, and he has been baptizing babies at Cornerstone Chapel for 22 years, and he has one of those voices that makes everything sound like it was always going to be fine. He was holding my son over the font. My son is 4 months old and has a laugh like a hiccup, and he was wearing the christening gown my mother sewed by hand, and everyone in that church believed they were looking at a happy new mother. What they were actually looking at was a woman who had been technically homeless for 11 days, because the house was already gone. Not being sold, not in dispute, gone. Instrument number 2024118437, recorded at 9:14 on a Tuesday morning at the Kestrel County Recorder's Office. A quitclaim deed transferring 41 Pine Bar Court from Derek Reed and Camille Okafor Reed to Justine Marlowe, sole owner, for $1 and other valuable consideration. Recorded means filed, filed means public, public means final, and my name was on that deed in handwriting that was not mine. So while Pastor Whitcomb was asking who stands as sponsor for this child, and while my husband was standing next to me in a gray suit with his hand warm on my lower back, I was doing arithmetic. Not about the house. About the timing. About how many hours I had left before he opened the envelope in his glove compartment and found out I already knew. I am Camille Okafor Reed. I spent 6 years as a compliance officer at Amberline Savings, which means I spent 6 years reading documents that people assumed nobody read. I am on family leave, I am 32, I am the kind of woman people underestimate because I stay quiet, and I have stopped correcting them because it turns out quiet is the most useful thing I own. The reception was in the fellowship hall, folding tables, aluminum trays, my Aunt Verna's jollof and Derek's mother's potato salad on the same table like a peace treaty. 20-some people, plus my sister Simone, who had positioned herself at the end with a plate of nothing but meat because Simone believes side dishes are a form of dishonesty. Derek stood up to toast. He was always good at this. Charming in a room, and something else entirely in a kitchen at 11 at night. "I want to thank everybody for coming out," he said. Big day, little man got dunked and didn't even cry. Laughter. Real laughter. His best friend Bryce Holton, who worked 2 desks down from him at Crestwood, whooped from the corner. "And I want to thank my wife," Derek said, and lifted his cup toward me, and I watched him decide, in real time, to do it. "Camille, you know I love you, but I'll be honest in front of God and everybody financially. You have been the biggest mistake I ever made." There was a sound in that room, not a gasp. Worse, that half second where 20 adults simultaneously decide whether to laugh and about 4 of them do and the rest of them look at their plates. 6 years of compliance work and she can't compliance her way out of a Target run, he said. "I'm kidding. I'm kidding." To my wife. My mother's fork stopped moving. My Aunt Verna said Derek in the voice she uses on dogs. Bryce laughed the loudest and longest. The way you do when you're covering something. And I smiled. I want to be very clear about this smile. It was not brave. It was not the smile of a woman rising above. It was the smile of a woman who has already read the last page of the book and is now watching someone else start chapter 1. I smiled with my teeth, which Simone later told me was the single most frightening thing she has ever witnessed in a house of worship. Under the table, I slid my wedding ring off. It came off easier than it should have. I put it in the inside pocket of my jacket, next to the ivory envelope I had been carrying for 9 days. Simone saw. One eyebrow, up about a 1/4 inch, and she said nothing, and I loved her more in that moment than I have ever loved anyone who wasn't 4 months old. Then Pastor Whitcomb stood, because I had asked him before the reception if he would read a family document for me, something meaningful, and he had said, "Of course. Camille, of course." Before we eat, he said, "Camille has asked me to read something. She said it concerns the family." He opened it. He is a kind man with terrible reading glasses. He started at the top, because that is what you do with a document, and the top of that document was a caption block. In the matter of, he read slowly, Okafor Reed versus Reed and Marlowe. Fraudulent conveyance, forgery, and identity theft. Superior Court, Kestrel County. He stopped. He looked at the page. He looked at me. "Camille," he said. "I'm not sure this is—" "That's fine, Pastor," I said. "That's enough, thank you." I have never heard a room go that quiet with that many people in it. Derek's cup came down hard enough to slop punch onto the paper tablecloth. Bryce Holton stood up. No destination, like a man whose body got a warning his brain hadn't decoded yet. "What is that?" Derek said. "It's a certified copy," I said. "You've already been served. Justine has too. Check your glove compartment, it's probably still in there. And here's where I have to go back once, briefly, because otherwise none of what comes next makes sense. 6 weeks before that christening, I was doing what I always do on the 3rd of the month, which is pulling my own credit file. Habit. You spend years watching other people's money get eaten and you develop a twitch. There were 6 accounts I did not open: a furniture line, 2 store cards, a personal loan, and 2 revolving accounts, opened over 14 months, at 3 addresses I have never lived at, totaling $148,610. I did not cry, I made tea. Then I went to the Kestrel County Recorder's public portal, which is free and open to anyone, and typed in our parcel number. And there it was: quitclaim deed. Grantee Justine Marlowe. Notary block at the bottom, stamp and commission number and signature: Justine Marlowe, licensed notary public, state commission, expiring the following spring. She notarized her own deed. She swore under her notary oath that both grantors appeared before her and signed freely. On a Tuesday morning when I was at my mother's house in Halbrook with a colicky infant and 11 text messages to prove it. I called Simone. She picked up chewing something. He put the house in her name, I said. Chewing stopped. In whose name? Justine Marlowe, the notary from his office, the one with the highlights. That's the one. Simone was quiet for a second, which for her is a geological event. Then she said, "Camille, I need you to listen to me. Do not key anything, do not post anything, do not go over there. You are about to be the most powerful woman in 3 counties, and I need you to not throw it away over a Honda." I wasn't going to key anything. I know, I'm saying it out loud so it's on the record. That was the whole plan, right there, in a phone call with my sister eating a rotisserie chicken with her hands. Everything I gathered after that came from 2 places only: public records anybody can pull, and my own conversations, in a single-party consent state, which means I am allowed to record myself talking. I never touched a bank system. My attorney, Adrienne Kessler Boyd, said it twice in our first meeting. You're clean, stay clean, boring is what wins. 6 weeks of boring. I moved myself and the baby to my mother's house on a Tuesday, filed the complaint 9 days later, and on the 11th day of my smiling, we were in a church. 3 days after the christening, Bryce Holton showed up at my mother's house in Halbrook. My mother, Ngozi Okafor, opened the door in her house slippers with my son on her shoulder. Aunt Verna was at the kitchen table with a bowl of shelled peas. Bryce came in like he was doing a delivery he'd rehearsed in the car. "Camille, hey, look, this isn't Derek asked me to bring this by. Manila envelope. Separation terms. Informal, unfiled, the kind of thing you send when you want someone to sign before they know what things are worth. He said if you sign, the rest goes away," Bryce said, "before it turns into a whole court thing." "Bryce," Aunt Verna said without looking up from the peas, "you brought a divorce to a woman's mother's house on a Wednesday. It's not a divorce, it's you brought it in a bag from the gas station," my mother said. He had. He'd put the manila envelope inside a plastic bag from the Sunoco on Renard, presumably so nobody in the driveway would see it. I took it. I signed his little tear-off receipt slip, because I have never in my life refused to sign an acknowledgement of receipt, and I dated it and handed it back. "Tell him again that my counsel is Adrienne Kessler Boyd at Kessler Boyd and Ferrante," I said. "Her name is on the first page of the complaint he's been holding for 4 days. Everything goes through her now, and service is formal going forward." Bryce blinked. He said the church thing was a scare tactic. He said there's no actual case. "It's on the public docket," I said. "You can read it for free." I watched it happen on his face. It's a specific thing, watching a man recalculate 14 months of covering for his friend. 14 months of telling my mother Derek was at a conference in Ashford. 14 months of laughing too loud at the right moments, and every one of them about to have a date attached to it. "Camille, come on. It's Derek. It's not that deep." "You're right," I said. "It's not deep at all. It's all right on the surface. That's what's going to make it fast." Aunt Verna offered him peas. He declined. My mother walked him out and shut the door and then leaned on it and said one word in Igbo that I will not translate. Adrienne filed the divorce petition that Monday. 2 cases now in 2 courtrooms on the same set of facts. She said that was fine. She said it just meant he'd have to lie twice. Derek's next move was the one that told me he had stopped thinking. Because I wasn't panicking, that was the problem. 11 days of smiling, then a church, then a lawyer's name in a kitchen, and none of it looked like a woman crumbling. So he called Amberline Savings, got Dale Whitaker, my former supervisor, and told him I'd been using my compliance credentials to pull financial records illegally. Dale called me that afternoon, 26 years in the industry. He talks like a man reading a fire code aloud. "Camille, I'm going to tell you about a phone call I got, and then I'm going to tell you what I did about it, in that order." "Okay. Your husband called my desk line at 10:40 this morning. He identified himself as your husband. He alleged you were accessing consumer files without permissible purpose. He asked me to, quote, look into your account activity. What did you tell him?" I told him your credentials were deactivated the day your leave started, and that a person outside the institution asking me to pull an employee's file over a domestic allegation is something I'm obligated to document. He paused. So I documented it. Memo in my drawer, copy with our general counsel. That's the process. I closed my eyes. I did not say thank you, God, but it was close. Dale, my attorney is Adrienne Kessler Boyd. She'll want that memo and she'll subpoena it properly. Good. I'd rather it come correct. Then, drier Camille, is there anything I should know about what's actually happening? There's a deposition on the 8th. His name is on it. So is a notary from his office. Dale exhaled through his nose. He should have checked the statute before he made that call. Yes, I said. He should have. Justine Marlowe called me 4 days later. My phone, my number from her own cell, at 8:20 on a Sunday night. I let it ring twice. I opened the recorder app. I said the date and the time out loud into the microphone the way Adrienne told me to, and then I answered, Camille, it's Justine Marlowe. Please don't hang up. I'm not going to hang up, Justine. Silence. She was expecting a fight. Nobody prepares for the other thing. I think we can make this easy, she said. For everybody. I know you've got the baby. I don't want this to become a whole thing. What would easy look like? You let the house go. Quick, like ripping tape. You don't contest it, you sign whatever, and I will personally make sure nothing else gets pursued. The accounts, the credit stuff. Nobody has to look at any of it. The account's in my name. I'm just saying it doesn't have to escalate, that's all I'm saying. Derek and I have an arrangement, and I'm trying to keep it from touching you more than it already has. An arrangement? I said. Camille, I'm being nice to you right now. You are, I said. You really are. Justine, can I ask you something? On the deed. The notary block. You attested that both grantors appeared before you. Half a second. It was that standard language. So I appeared before you, Camille, because on the 23rd I was in Halbrook. My mother has a Ring camera. It's got me carrying a car seat up her steps at 8:51 in the morning. The sound she made was not a word. Then, very fast, very bright, I think you should talk to Derek. I think you should talk to a lawyer, I said. A different one from his. Thank you for calling, Justine. This was really helpful. I hung up. I sat in my mother's guest room with the baby monitor glowing green on the dresser, and I emailed the file to Adrienne at 8:34 p.m., and she wrote back 4 minutes later with one line. She used the word arrangement. Then Derek drove 40 minutes to Simone's apartment. I got the story that night on speaker while I folded onesies. So the buzzer goes, Simone said. I think it's my order. It's him. With flowers, Camille. Gas station flowers, the ones in the plastic sleeve with the little water bulb. What did he say? He said, Simone, you've always been the reasonable one. He did not. Camille, on our father's name. He said I was the reasonable one. She let that sit. I've been arrested at a protest. He's known me 9 years. What did you say? Nothing yet. He kept going. Said you're being manipulated by a lawyer running up fees. Said this doesn't have to ruin 2 families. Then, and I want to get this right, she listens to you. She's always listened to you. And I said, you drove 40 minutes to talk to the wrong sister. And I closed the door. I stopped folding. Then he lost it, she said, and there was something almost delighted in her voice. He pounded on that door. Both hands, yelling that I don't know what I'm doing to him. Mrs. Ferreira from 4 Billions opened her door. Then the guy in 4F with the anxious greyhound. 2 neighbors and a dog watching a grown man in a quarter zip beat on my door about his wife. Did he leave? He left. He took the flowers with him. That's the part I keep thinking about. He took the flowers back. Simone. Yeah? Write down what happened. Times, names. Don't editorialize. Camille, editorializing is my only marketable skill. A pause. But yes, I'll write it plain. Mrs. Ferreira already offered. She said she's happy to say what she saw and also that she's never liked his car. 2 days before the deposition, Derek filed an emergency motion in the divorce. The motion said I had removed marital assets from the home. The assets specifically were my son's christening gifts, envelopes of cash from aunties, 3 savings bonds, a silver cup from Derek's grandmother, a check from my mother's church circle. I had removed them. Every one. 10 days earlier to my mother's house, and I had done it the way you do it when you read documents for a living. I inventoried them. Item, giver, amount, condition, 22 line items filed with the court clerk, stamped and dated 4 days before he ever filed his motion. The hearing was in Judge Antonia Ferrer Blakely's courtroom at 9:30 the next morning. Gallery half full, Derek's mother in the second row with her purse in her lap. Todd Auerbach stood up and talked about dissipation of marital assets and a pattern of concealment, and Derek sat there in the good suit doing his concerned face, the one where the eyebrows come together like he's listening to a doctor. Then Adrienne stood up. Adrienne Kessler-Boyd is 5'1" and she does not raise her voice either, which is why I hired her. Your Honor, I direct the court to Exhibit A, filed with the clerk's office on the 2nd, which is a signed and dated inventory of the items in question prepared by my client, filed 4 days before the motion currently before you. Paper sounds. The judge read for maybe 40 seconds. Mr. Auerbach, she said, your motion characterizes these items as concealed. Your Honor, they're itemized. There's a line here for a silver cup. Engraved, there's a line for $80 from someone named Auntie Bernadette. The gallery made a noise. Judge Farrer Blakely did not smile, but something happened around her mouth. Was your client aware of this filing? We were not served with it's on the public docket, counsel. It's been on the public docket since the 2nd. She set the paper down. The motion is denied, and I'll note for the record that a motion filed after a public inventory on the eve of a scheduled deposition has the appearance of a retaliatory filing. I'd advise against a second one. Derek turned around and looked at me. It was the first honest thing his face had done in 2 years. Not anger, the look of a man who has just realized the floor is not where he thought it was. I looked back at him, and then I looked at the clerk, because the clerk was more interesting. The deposition was on the 8th, on the 4th floor of the Halloran building downtown, in a conference room with a window that looked at another window. Present, me, Adrienne, Derek, Todd Auerbach, a court reporter named Franklin Osei-Dua, with a steno machine and a paper cup of coffee he never touched, and at the far end, Marisol Tenrero, in-house counsel for Crestwood Lending Group, there because Crestwood had been separately subpoenaed over 6 credit applications routed through a work address on Delcourt Street. Derek came in talking. He shook the court reporter's hand. He said something about parking. He put his phone face down on the table and said, "Let's just get through this." Adrienne started boring. That's the craft of it. 19 minutes on employment history dates, titles, supervisors. I watched his shoulders come down an inch. Mr. Reed, are you familiar with a limited liability company called Ravensbrook Storage? I was a member. Passive. There's a civil action pending against Ravensbrook and its members filed by Hollis Dunmore seeking $412,000. That case is garbage. Were you served in that action on March 11th of last year? I'd have to look. Take your time. She slid a page across. He looked at it. Is that your signature on the return of service? Yes. Thank you. Marking as Exhibit 2, Mr. Reed, this is a quitclaim deed recorded in Kestrel County on the 23rd, Instrument 2024 to 118,437, conveying 41 Pine Bar Court to Justine Marlowe. Is that your signature as grantor? He looked at it for a long time. Yes. And below your signature, is that a signature reading Camille Okafor Reed? That's what it says. That's not what I asked. Is that your wife's signature? Auerbach, objection form. Calls for he can answer. I wasn't there when she signed it, Derek said. You weren't there when she signed it, Adrienne repeated pleasantly, and Franklin's fingers moved, and that sentence existed forever now. Exhibit 3. This is the notarial certificate on that same instrument, executed by Justine Marlowe, commission number 8802 KC. It attests that both grantors personally appeared before the notary on the 23rd and acknowledged execution. Do you see that? I see it. Mr. Reed, where was your wife on the morning of the 23rd? Something happened to his throat. I watched it. He swallowed and it didn't work the first time. I don't recall. Exhibit 4 is a still image and metadata from a doorbell camera at 1120 Ashgrove Lane in Halbrook, timestamped 8:51 a.m. on the 23rd, showing my client carrying an infant car seat up her mother's front steps. Exhibit 5 is a forensic document examination report from Estelle Barrow, certified examiner, 27 pages, comparing the signature on Exhibit 2 against 14 exemplars. Ms. Barrow's conclusion is that the questioned signature was not written by my client, and further that it shows significant and repeated characteristics consistent with the hand of Auerbach put his palm flat on the table. Can we take 5? We took 5. They went into the hall. Marisol Tenrero did not. She stayed at the end of the table and typed something on her laptop, unhurried, and when Derek came back in she did not look up, and that was the first ally to go, in the smallest possible motion. Adrienne kept going. Exhibit 6, the 6 credit applications, 3 addresses, one of them the Delcourt Street office. Exhibit 7, Barrow's second report on those applications. Exhibit 8, Dale Whitaker's memo describing a 10:40 a.m. call. Derek's voice had changed by then, up about a third of an octave, and it had lost its bottom. He drank the water and then held the empty cup and turned it, and Franklin's machine clicked. Exhibit 9, Adrienne said. An audio recording lawfully made under this state's single-party consent provision of a call between my client and Justine Marlowe. I'll play a portion, Auerbach said. We object to note the objection. She pressed play. That conference room filled up with Justine's voice. Tinny, too bright. You let the house go, and I will personally make sure nothing else gets pursued. Derek and I have an arrangement. I have never heard a room hold that still. Franklin kept typing. That's what I remember most, a court reporter transcribing every second of it, because the room does not stop being a record just because someone in it is dying. Mr. Reed, Adrian said, why did the house need to be in Ms. Marlowe's name? He didn't answer. Mr. Reed, is it accurate that a judgment in the Dunmore matter would attach to real property held in your name? You'd have to ask you're a mortgage broker. You've closed how many transactions? I don't approximately. A few hundred. So you understand what a judgment lien attaches to. He said, I want to take a break. We just took one, Adrian said. But that's fine. Let's take a break. Auerbach stood up too fast and his chair hit the wall. Derek's hand on the doorframe as he went, I saw it shake. Not a tremor, a grab, a man taking a handhold. He did not come back. I sat in that conference room for 25 minutes. At 2:15, Todd Auerbach came back alone and asked to go off the record, and Adrian said we'd go off the record when the reporter was instructed and not before. Justine Marlowe was deposed that same afternoon, 2 floors down. I was in the room next to it, and Adrian came in afterward and told me, and I made her tell me twice. They were 40 minutes in when Justine's counsel, who was, at that moment, still coordinating with Derek's, was informed that Todd Auerbach had filed a notice of withdrawal from representing Derek Reed. Adrian said Justine's hands were on the table, palms down, and they stopped. Completely. Like something had been switched off at the wall. She said, I need my own attorney. And the court reporter kept typing, because that also is a record. The witness states she requires separate counsel. Click, click, click. Simone had been in the lobby since 8:45 that morning. 9 hours. When I came out of the elevator, she was in a vinyl chair with a folded newspaper on her knee, a pen behind her ear, 2 empty pretzel bags flattened beside her like she'd been keeping score. She stood up. She looked at my face for about 2 seconds. That's the one, she said. That's all. We walked out onto Halloran Street into that flat, late-afternoon gold, and she took my bag off my shoulder and carried it, and neither of us said anything until we got to the car, where she said, 6 down was restitution, by the way. 11 letters. I sat on it for an hour. Here's how it landed. Derek Reed lost the house he thought he had stolen. The conveyance was unwound by court order as a fraudulent transfer, the deed vacated, and title to 41 Pine Bar Court restored to me as sole owner, which the recorder's office reflected on a Tuesday morning 8 weeks later, instrument number 2025004-291. And yes, I checked it on the portal, and yes, I printed it, and yes, it's in a frame in the hallway where the wedding photo used to be. The matter was criminally referred for forgery and identity theft. He took a plea with restitution, and the plea cost him his mortgage broker's license permanently, which the state licensing board publishes online in a searchable database that anyone, including his future employers, can find in under a minute. The fraudulent debt came off my file account by account over 5 months, each one a letter I opened at my mother's kitchen table. Justine Marlowe lost her notary commission the same week the state commissioning board received the deposition transcript revoked, not suspended, with a written finding that she executed a false certificate of acknowledgement, which is the one thing in that profession you cannot come back from. She has a civil judgment she will be paying on for a long time. She also lost the house, which I am told she had already begun furnishing a sectional in the front room, curtains in the primary bedroom, and when the order came down she had 30 days to take her sectional and go. Bryce Holton was named in discovery as a knowing participant in the concealment, with dates, because Simone wrote it down plain like I asked, and my mother remembered every conference in Ashford that never happened. Crestwood dropped him as a witness, which meant an ugly conversation with his own director about why he was in a discovery filing at all, and the promotion he'd been promised went to a woman named Priya Racklin in the Halbrook office instead. Simone brought me this news in my kitchen, holding her phone like a trophy. I did not seek this out. It came to me, which was a lie we both enjoyed, and she ate my last plantain while I read it. The divorce was final on a Thursday in March, uncontested by the end because there was nothing left to contest and nobody left to contest it with. I have primary custody. Derek has supervised visitation every other Saturday at a family center on Wexler Road. where a woman named Doreen sits in the corner and writes down what she sees, and he has come to 9 of the last 12, which is more than I expected and less than his son is owed. And the ring. It sat in my jacket pocket from that reception until the Monday after the hearing, when I put it in a coin envelope and wrote the date on it, and it sat in a safe deposit box at Amberline Savings next to the certified originals for 4 months, and then I sold it, and it covered a little more than half of Estelle Barrow's invoice for the handwriting examination, which felt, to me, like the correct final use of that object. We moved back into 41 Pine Bar Court in April. Justine's curtains were still hanging in the primary bedroom. I took them down and I did not burn them because I am not going to become a woman who burns things. I washed them and gave them to the church, and Pastor Whitcomb thanked me and did not ask, which is its own kind of grace. My son is 14 months old now. He walks like a man on a boat. He eats standing up like Simone. He does not know any of this and will not for a long time, and when he asks, I am going to tell him the way I tell everything: dates, instrument numbers, what was filed and when, because he should get it as a record and not as a wound, and because the record is the only part of it I ever controlled. Nobody warns you that the ending is quiet. No one claps. You stand in your own hallway on a Tuesday holding a baby and a printed deed, and the floor is where you thought it was, and it stays there. He called me his biggest financial mistake. Turned out he was right, just not the way he meant it. I did not rise above it, and I did not burn it down. I documented it, and then I went home. The quietest person in the room is usually the one who has already finished counting.